Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the GovTech Advisors podcast. My name is Andrew, and as always, we've got Jordan Abramson with us as well. But today we have a very special guest, Beck Mitchell from Tango Tango. I like to say Hunts Vegas. Huntsville is actually one of my favorite cities in the entire country, and a lot of people I don't think would say that. But I've spent a ton of time there. The Hampton Inn near the Arsenal. That used to be my second home for a good long time, for all the good and bad with that. And I also, fun fact, have had a very unique experience where I was able to fly in and out of Lake Guntersville Airport in a little Cessna. But that's a story for another day. Beck, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Tango Tango.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. I've been with Tango Tango essentially since the inception, employee number 3 officially. So Tango Tango was founded here in Huntsville back in 2016. A few people put it together, one of which was the owner of a Motorola service shop that serviced the northern third of the state of Alabama. Another one was a very experienced entrepreneur and also telecom engineer. And then another individual spent 34 years at the local sheriff's office during a radio transition and was part of the technical committee and things like that. So you kind of combine all of those things and it really puts together what we do as a whole. And that's connecting cell phones to radio systems for public safety, first responders, etc. So as I said, I was the number 3 actual employee. And so currently I handle sales, development, partnerships, etc., and some product stuff as well. So kind of seeing all the changes of the industry, all the changes of the company over the past 5 years now. So it's been really fun and interesting ride.
So back to that point, like how is it different today than maybe when you kind of jumped in 5 years ago? Obviously the technology changes and things like that, but like how has the market kind of shifted for Tango Tango?
It's really been interesting. So every year we attend one of the largest wireless conventions in the world, IWCE typically in Las Vegas. And we've gone every year except for last year when it was canceled. And the first year we went, there wasn't really much about connecting radio systems to cell phones there. Right, it was just traditional radio stuff. There was some push to talk, cellular components to the event, but by and large, it was kind of the back burner. Every year, it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas back in 2019 was the last year that we went, and it was a very big part of the show. So watching that growth on the industry side, but then seeing that also on the customer side as well. I mean, back in 2016, when I first approached customers about using the service and what it could do for them, it was almost like black magic, right? We had to get them to really trust us because we're connecting their radio system to cell phones. And so, once they saw it, they liked it, but it was a big trust factor because they didn't really understand the technology or understand the capabilities at the time. Now, we don't have to go convince somebody it's a technology they need because they've already heard of it before now. So it's the past 5 years has been a crazy difference from an industry and just customer perspective.
Interesting. So let me ask you this question. So I'm sure you're probably aware, like a lot of our mobility carriers are getting into this space. How do you guys differentiate yourselves from maybe those others?
Well, so from what I found, cell carriers are very good at cellular, right? Mm-hmm. Radio system vendors, Motorola, Harris, the big guys, they're very good at radio. It's very hard to find somebody who's good at both. And that's kind of where we fit in the middle, right? We have experience on the radio side, we have experience on the cellular side, and putting both of those pieces together really enables us to help the customer in ways that neither one of the other ones can really do a good job of. And that's really set us apart with our customers.
Right. So, are you, speaking of your customers, going on your website, it's almost like for the space that Jordan and I are in, it's like a dream come true. I mean, police, fire, EMS, school buses, in helping that. Is there, when you are helping that kind of first responder community, is it something that do people come to you and say, hey, we have an emergency, we need to get Tango Tango, so we kind of bring this all together? Do you see that happening more, or is it more, hey, we need to plan for when that stuff happens, so let's have Tango Tango as part of our overall system? Or is it kind of all points in between? When do they come to you guys?
Yeah, a little bit of both. We do free trials for our service all the time, and so many of our customers have an emergency during their free trial period. During the ice storms that hit Alabama and Tennessee last month, or I guess it was last month, maybe February, we had a county in Tennessee that they had an issue with communications, and they were on a demo with us, a trial with us, and we expanded. We gave them as many user licenses as they need during that trial, and they were able to actually use it in real time during a real disaster, and it proved its value, right? So if you can find, disasters are the best time to really test the technology.
Sure.
We never want a disaster to happen, but if it does happen and they're using our technology during that time, they really find the value in those cases. Other times it's for the 99% of the time, the time frame where you don't have a disaster, the everyday sunny day outside like today, where, if I'm a police chief and I'm at a conference 2 states away, and I need to listen to what's going on back home, I can still do that using our service, right? And that can prove invaluable and even save lives or be more efficient for communications, et cetera. So that you prep for the 99% of the time, but really that 1% of the time can make a big difference if it takes place during a time that they're using the service.
Well, one of the things you said that I found interesting is you have customers that start with you guys even in a catastrophe or an emergency kind of thing. So I have to assume it's a very easy setup process for them to get started if they're able to kind of stand it up in that type of environment. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So I'll give you a great example. Seminole County Sheriff's Office in Florida used our service. They were actually trying it out, and we shipped the equipment in a small Pelican case, so it's rather mobile. So they were trying it out, and Hurricane Michael hit the Panhandle a handful of years ago. They actually responded to that, and they took our equipment with them and were able to connect to the local radio system there. So they didn't have to have extra radios handed out to them or anything like that. They just plugged it up. They used their cell phones because at the time in the area they were in, cell service was still available, and they were able to communicate that way. So, that's a real-time example of setting it up during a disaster. They do still have to have the equipment on hand if they want to connect to a radio system. So if a disaster hits right now, we're going to have to still ship them the equipment. So we could get them set up on the application, as fast as possible, though. I mean, that's just a text message activation. So they still could use some part of the service immediately if they needed to. But as far as connecting to the radio system, that would have to be some equipment in hand to do that.
Sure. Can you talk to me a little bit? I'm thinking about, when you're talking about Michael, I'm thinking about Sandy. I'm thinking about, all the other things that have happened where not only when something happened, but then you had all these other groups, municipalities, and other resources coming from all over the country with their own radio systems, with their own types of technology. How do you guys handle that when you're having to take many of these and kind of put them together and communicating during that disaster?
Well, it depends on if the area that all those people are responding to is an area that we already have customers. If it is, then it's very easy, right? Those customers, typically we are proactive and can reach out to those customers in the event of a disaster, say, hey, what can we do to help? How many user licenses do you guys need? During a disaster, we'll give you as many as you need for up to 30 days. Let you try, add as many people and shut them down at no cost. So we are proactive in that approach. So if it happens in an area where we have a customer, Hurricane Michael, again, there's another sheriff's office in the Panhandle of Florida that was a customer of ours. Their radio system actually got knocked down, but they still had cell service. And so they had officers come up from Miami, and they activated them. It was kind of a bring your own device situation. They still had cell service. officers from Miami came up to assist in patrolling and things like that. They just added them on the application on the fly, and then they were able to communicate while they were patrolling. So in those incidents, it's very easy to just dynamically expand quickly, regardless of radio system, regardless of cell carrier. You know, some people could be on FirstNet, some people could be on Verizon, some people could be on T-Mobile. You know, it doesn't matter. In those instances, you just need something that works.
You find people, let's just say, for example, maybe they don't have a radio system, right? Or they've gotten away from radio. You know, is there still a lot of people that are looking at Tango Tango to be a, you know, application to application communication, where maybe radios are not there, or it's always predominantly kind of tying into that LMR radio kind of interoperability piece?
Yeah, any first responder agency is going to have a radio system, right? They legally have to, because they have to have recordings of different things and 911 and communicate. So any first responder agency, you know, we definitely, our motto is don't get rid of your radio. You still need your radio, right? If a tornado comes through and knocks the radio system down and the cell towers down, your radio will still work. I could talk, you know, if we're standing in a field together, we could talk radio to radio, regardless if any of that's still up or not. So, you know, in a true mission critical sense, never get rid of your radio. However, back to the 99% of the time, you know, augmenting that radio system to leverage the existing LTE network or Wi-Fi network is a smart idea and for the everyday use case. So to answer your question, we don't really have anybody that does app only with us. We have a few customers, and they're kind of maybe security agencies that aren't true first responders, but they're private security agencies that don't have a radio system. But the majority of our customers are first responders, and they have radio networks. And that's really our specialty, right? There are push-to-talk apps out there people can use. Our specialty is connecting that to the radio network.
Right. Well, Jordan's going to roll his eyes a little bit, because talk to me a little bit about education then. So like if you're doing first responders, you know, that's one way, but talk to me a little bit about how you guys apply this within, you know, the yellow fleet, within the school buses, because a lot of them do have 800 megahertz systems or old systems. A lot of them got rid of them because they didn't have to have them anymore. They wanted something that was a little bit more robust. Talk to me about that use case.
Yeah, and there's a few pieces to that use case, right? The school system could have their own radio network. Some of them do, many of them do, within the schools and the school buses, right? So I have a school that we're integrated with their school bus channel. So the superintendent, principals, and, you know, the emergency staff can stay in contact and listen to that bus channel. We have school system radio systems connected. So maybe the police or fire or EMS could have access to that radio system, because they may not be on the same system and may not be interoperable with each other. Or superintendents, again, need to stay in contact with, you know, the various campuses that in their district. And then again, it goes back to radio doesn't work very well in schools. Schools are meant to be hardened buildings to protect the kids from disasters, etc. And so radio is very difficult to penetrate those buildings, but they always have Wi-Fi or cell service. And so school resource officers inside schools, their radios a lot of times don't work. And so using their cell phone to connect to that Wi-Fi or LTE connection and then talk over their radio system enables them to inexpensively communicate back over their radio network when their radios don't work.
You said something earlier that was kind of interesting to me about, like, so if you have a disaster, right, you guys proactively reach out to an agency and say, hey, how do we help? Do you have a specific team that does that? Or is it kind of like all hands on deck, everybody steps in those type of environments? How do you guys kind of collectively rally around helping an organization or an agency?
Yeah, we're lucky enough to have a small team still, almost 25 employees. So some of them are spread out across the U.S., but most of them are here in Huntsville. And so we are very proactive on support, any kind of support. One of the pieces of our support component is we have a network operations center that actually monitors the connectivity of our equipment in the field. So if it loses connectivity, we get notified. So we're already working on a resolution typically before a customer even knows there's a problem. So that being said, support's a big component of our total service, right? And so, like for the power outages in Texas recently, I contacted my customers in Texas and said, hey, is there anything we can do for you guys? My coworkers did the same thing. So it's not necessarily a specific team within the company, but it is the group itself knowing, hey, there's a disaster. I worked with these people in this area. I need to contact them and see if there's something we can do to help out.
Got it.
So I saw on the website too, just doing some research over the past couple of weeks as well. I see that you guys, being in the first responder space, doing a lot of work with FirstNet. So I know that some people on the podcast understand FirstNet. Some people may not be aware of it, and we can dive into that in just a moment. But what did you guys have to do at Tango Tango? Because I know getting on the FirstNet app store, being part of the FirstNet ecosystem is not as simple as saying, hey, I want Tango Tango on there, and then you're off to the races. I know that there's certain things that you have to make sure that Tango Tango can do in those times of need. So can you talk a little bit about why you guys got into FirstNet and some of the things you guys had to do that kind of sets Tango Tango apart from other things that may not be in the FirstNet app store?
Sure. Yeah. So we are FirstNet certified, which is the highest level of certification in the FirstNet App Store. And what that means is we went through high levels of scrutiny on the adapplication, the admin portal, et cetera, for security protocols and basically every bit and piece of the application and admin portal is looked through by the FirstNet team to ensure compliance with, like I said, security protocols and so on and so forth. And that's done, I believe, on a quarterly basis. They go through and they check everything. So it's fairly rigorous. So not just any application can go in, and they also check and make sure that applications are deemed first responder. So it's not just some regular application that no first responder company uses or nobody's ever heard of before. It is a reputable first responder communication tool. So that's the process of going through that. Obviously, we wanted to be a part of that because it is the FirstNet network, the national first responder network that AT&T won the contract from the government. And so being a part of that, it's a big deal because it is first responder only, right? So we felt the need to be a part of that critical piece of legislature that allowed that network to become what it is today. Yep.
Sure.
Well, so we kind of talked a little bit, like looking back, right, how the market has shifted and kind of it's become such a prominent kind of display at IWCE. Where does it go in the future, right? If you look at the technology and the market 2-3 years out, what do you see as kind of the next big thing?
Well, I know the next big buzzwords are mission critical push to talk, high powered devices that allow you to communicate without a network, et cetera. Those are the big buzzwords, right? Whether they actually come to fruition and have any real valuable meaning to the customer is a completely separate conversation or question. So I think getting those standards put in place and actually applied in the real world testing with both of those pieces will be in the next few years. And some people that are very pro mission critical push to talk think that will replace radios one day. We here at Tango Tango don't really believe that, at least the next decade or two. Radios will always be around. So, and that's where we see our mission is connecting the two, right? We don't want anybody to throw away their radios again. We just want to have them augment their radio system for better efficiency and communication. So,
right. I mean, and you bring up a really good point because there is always new technology pushing forward, but there's always places in redundancy, legacy systems that take a really long time. I mean, I can think of about 6 different things off the top of my head that, there's still VCRs out there. There's still certain things. There's reasons why, there's some old school batteries that are still powering some of these systems in the back ends. I mean, it's all necessary. So why not try to, yes, progress needs to move forward, but how do we bring them together while we're moving forward? So we're not leaving certain areas, rural areas that you know, out of the mix. So I think it's a great tool. So is there, you know, for the I'm sure in your space that you've got people that do something similar to Tango Tango. So, you know, we've talked a lot about what you guys do, how you guys do it, but what's the thing if somebody's kind of comparing you and the next, you know, Tango Tango like, because there is no other Tango Tango, but the next one, what's the differences? What would be why they should choose you guys over your closest competitor?
Yeah. So again, it kind of goes back into what's the specialty of the people that, you know, we compete against in different spaces, right? Cell companies, they're great at cellular. Radio companies are great at radio, et cetera. But when you start mixing them, it gets really foggy in the middle. There are, again, some people out there that do and can connect push-to-talk systems to radio systems, but they don't actually do the connection, right? So we're the only one that actually does everything as a service. So I don't sell any hardware. We sell a service to the customer, right? We tell the customer, hey, this is what it does for you. Try it out, see what features and benefits you know, you get from this, and this is the service you get, which includes warranty on everything, the network monitoring, like I mentioned, 24/7 critical incident support, the, you know, disaster assistance if needed, things like that. So it is a fully, essentially turnkey service. I mean, the customers and demos that we ship out take 10-15 minutes to set up over the phone with our guys once they get it. So I think in a world today where IT people, technical people, radio system people, you know, they have all these things to manage, right? They don't need another thing to manage.
Sure.
They just want it to work for them. And one of our customers in Alabama, that was one of our favorite quotes that was ever said. And he evaluated many different options. And he was the 911 director at a county in Alabama. And his quote, we have it on our website, says, "It just works." And that's really our goal, right? That's why it's our favorite quote, because that's the whole goal of the service, right? We just want it to work, and not put an extra burden on, you know, IT staff that you may have, or for, like you mentioned, rural people. Some rural agencies don't have any technical staff, right? Like they just don't. They don't have the budget for it. They don't have the need for it. And so getting those, and really they're the ones that benefit from the service the most, because they can't afford the $20 million radio systems or $50 million radio systems or $5,000 radios, right? But everybody's got a cell phone nowadays. Right. And so those people that don't have technical people on staff, again, when we ship it to them and it works in 10 minutes, that's it. It's pretty easy from there. So again, the service component to it is really the key differentiator between us and anyone else on the market. I mean, even the big guys like Motorola and FirstNet and Verizon and all those guys, you know, nobody offers a fully service component to it. They say, here's some hardware, here's the app, here's some programming instructions, have fun. You know, call our tech support and you might get some help. So that's really the big driver for us, is just making sure it works for our customers.
Well, and one of our last guests, Jack, had said, you know, government agencies are risk adverse, right? Nobody wants to be the first. The thing that I love about following you and Brandon and Tango Tango on LinkedIn is every single week, it seems like there's 5 or 6 or 7 agencies that have made the decision to move to Tango Tango. I love seeing those kind of win notifications, those win emails. So that's one of the big things I think you guys bring to the table too, is not experience, but you've taken the risk out of it for an agency to jump on board. Because again, you can go look at the website, right? Here's plastered with all the logos. You guys are a household name within that space.
I couldn't believe it either. When I went on there, I was like, wow, this is impressive.
You know, when we first thought about doing that, there was a lot of discussion of, well, do we really want to put the names of our customers out there for our competitors to see, right? Do we really want, you know, essentially every one of our customers, you know, to be named on there? Obviously, we make sure that the customer's okay with it, but and overwhelmingly, it came back, yeah, we do, because you know, we're kind of bullish in our service component, that, you know, nobody's going to give the customer better service than what we're giving. Our pricing is lower than anybody else. So for an apples to apples comparison. So, why wouldn't we do something like that to, again, kind of prove the statement that, more and more people are using this technology and moving forward with it, and how it's benefiting them. I mean, we love and we try to get customer testimonials as much as possible, because that's the best part. I mean, that's the best part of our jobs, is hearing how the benefits to the people, right? Like when we get testimonials of department, possibly saving the life of someone because they were able to communicate using our app. And I mean, that's huge. Blunt, rural fire department in South Dakota found a missing woman in hip deep snow. They responded in personal vehicles with no radios in them. They were able to use our app to coordinate and find her, right? Possibly saving her life. When that came through, the whole office was just in shock and awe, because that's it. That's what we strive for, right? Like that's the feel good story. That's what makes us come to work the next day. So yeah, we love posting all of our customers and all their testimonials on our website and any social media.
Man, I love it. I love the bullish cockiness. Like, I don't mean it in a bad way, but like, come get us, right? Like, we know we're doing what we're providing value to customers. I love it. So keep it up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, again, it's we've been through the industry long enough, and in the specific niche industry that we're in long enough to see how everything's going, where everything's going, where it's come from. And so, just putting all that together, and it took a lot of time to get our processes to where they are today, right? So it wasn't easy to get to the service model that we have today, but we've figured it out over the past couple of years, and it's been very good to us.
I mean, it's some seriously cool tech, and you guys are providing an amazing service. That's especially for all the reasons that we named already today, why it's so easy and needed to kind of bring all of this together. So talk to us a little bit about, so we've asked you a bunch of questions about Tango Tango. What's something that people should know about Tango Tango or yourself that many people don't ask about? Is there something you guys are known for, the kind of the marquee things, but what are some other use cases, some other examples, some things that you may do that not a lot of people may know?
As far as the company goes, or as far as the customers, or?
Sure, either. Yeah.
The company is fairly laid back. We have a results-oriented workplace, so in the grand scheme of corporate workplaces, it's quite the opposite, which I think is great, because a lot of us came from the corporate workplaces and we weren't really thrilled with how that operated. And so bringing that to this, and we make sure when we look for people to join the team, cultural fit is number one, right?
Sure.
Because of what we do, they have to be a cultural fit. On the sales team, I can't go hire a used car salesman, right? I have to have someone who actually cares about making relationships with customers and actually selling something that's going to be beneficial, and not just selling something because they need to sell something, right? That's a big key factor for the sales team. Customer service, we hire people that are obviously very knowledgeable with radio and technology in general. You kind of have to have both, but also, again, care deeply about making sure the customer is taken care of. I mean, that's a key piece to what we do. And so, when we make hires, we ensure that we make the right hire, because we don't want to make a bad hire in that aspect. So I think that's something a little bit different than a lot of other people do, just trying to attain goals, right? We have our goals, but we also, our main goal is taking care of the customers, number one. So results oriented workplace, we don't have set time off, like paid time off. If you're getting the job done, you can work from home, from the office. We have a lot of remote employees. And so that relaxed atmosphere, with all the tension that first responders bring to the table, as far as supporting them, you kind of have to have that. And so that's something huge that not a lot of other people in the GovTech space really have, from our experience.
Well, let me ask you this question. I'll ask you two questions. One,
okay.
What were you doing before Tango Tango? Were you in GovTech, or was this the first kind of move into GovTech?
It's funny, I actually was in telecom. So I sold voice over IP phone systems, Wi-Fi mesh networks, SDN, all that kind of stuff. So the transition to this wasn't quite easy. It was, because voice over IP is essentially the same as radio over IP, right? That's the thought process is the same. I knew nothing about radio before I started, though, like literally nothing. And so learning that from the ground up took a little bit of time. Luckily, got a lot of people with experience on the team to help me out with that. And so, I just had the technology side, and I've always kind of been an entrepreneur at heart. I've helped start a couple businesses, brick and mortar businesses, not technology. And so I've always had that determination personally, and motivation personally to do something big. And so when I was asked to be essentially employee number 3 here, I jumped at the job. It hasn't come with its ups and downs, obviously, as any startup or entrepreneur would tell you. There's ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, so my second question to that is, one of the things that it's interesting is when we started this community, we've had people like, hey, if you've got good companies that are out there that are hiring, I'd love to be in there. So if there's people that are watching this, I love what Tango's doing, I love the value, should they reach out, right? Is Tango Tango hiring? Are you guys looking for good people if there's somebody that loves what you guys are doing?
We're always looking for good people, salespeople, especially, because that's where, the growth is coming with the business. But we're always looking for good people. Whether or not we need somebody right at this moment, we may or may not, but we always keep good people, on the back burner in case a position becomes available, and then we can, pull from the Rolodex and get somebody good on board. But yeah, we're always looking for good people, no matter what.
Well, we'll make sure to give them your email address, your LinkedIn profile, your cell phone number, everything like that, so they can blow you up.
Right.
Yeah, social security number, everything.
Right. What was your first pet's name? We were talking about that before we got on. Yeah. No, I suspect that there's going to be quite a few people reaching out, because if we're talking on the podcast, and some of you guys are probably watching this, at a later date, but take some time, go on their website, take a look at what they do. It is seriously cool, and it is as turnkey as it looks to be, and it's very, very powerful. And so I was also equally encouraged when I saw how much effort and emphasis you guys put on FirstNet as well, because that's a big deal. It's becoming a bigger deal. So I'd love to see that.
One thing, Jordan, you asked me if there was things about the company that people need to know. One thing a lot of people don't know that happened in the last year or so is we actually trademarked the name Internet of Radio. So, there's IoT, Internet of Things. We own the trademark for Internet of Radio, IOR, because that's essentially what we're doing, is connecting all the radio systems to the internet and then making them interoperable if the need arises, or if the customer requests. So that's a cool little tidbit about the company is, we trademarked IOR.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I know it now. So yeah, I'm gonna go Google that. So that's really cool, because it's, you look at all the other things when, everybody's so used to it with, hey, I'm using Facebook Messenger and it works everywhere and it immediately ties everybody together, or I'm going to get on FaceTime and get everybody on there. So why not have that for the most critical situations? I think what you guys are doing is incredible. And so I applaud you guys for it. And I adore that you guys are in Huntsville. So I think that's also great.
Well, next time you're in Huntsville, you'll have to let us know.
For my Huntsville peeps that are listening to this, they all know it's been a long time since I've been there, but I promise I'll see you all when I come back in Beck for sure. We'll spend some time together.
You're breaking up there a little bit, going a little digital.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Hey, great. All right. So that's going to be in the podcast. That's there. Hopefully I had a goofy face going on. That might be the internet telling me I think we might need to wrap this up. So before we do, is there, Jordan or Beck, is there anything else that we should cover before we wrap up for the day?
No, I'll give time to Beck. Like I said, we have connections at the FirstNet team or anything like that, and we can share this. So anything that you want to leave us with, or how we can kind of best help you and help drive your guys' mission.
Yeah, I mean, I think just telling our story and what we're doing, not only as a company, but as, assisting first responders across the country. That's the biggest deal, is just getting the word out there about what we're doing. So, obviously all of this hopefully will help that. I appreciate you guys having me on here to talk about it. I could talk for days about the industry and Tango Tango and everything involved. So, but I won't bore you with all that just now.
Well, we'll make sure once these are posted and down below, we'll have the links to Tango Tango and to Beck. So should you guys want to do your own research or talk to them about specific opportunities, you'll have all the information you need to do that. So Jordan, it's good to see you again. Beck, thank you so much for taking time today and
Beck,
getting us up to speed on Tango Tango.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciated it.
See you guys.